You came from a kind of a jazz fusion country rock progressive band, and you came from the South, which I think was surprising.
Yeah, those are all ingredients for a long future in pop music.
But so when did you know you were going to be a guitar player? How old?
I guess I was about, well, I mean, I was a kid. I was, 11 years old playing and trying to do wheelies on my bicycle at the same time. There was no distinction between, oh, cool, can I try your skateboard, to, hey, let me try the guitar. But when I reached about age 13 or 14, then suddenly I dug in and was practicing a lot. And it really started to open up for me when I set a goal every day that I was going to find something surprising or amazing, or discover something each day. And sometimes if I didn't find that during the practice session, I would stay up late at night, of course on a school night, but I would stay up late at night and just take the guitar back out and mess with it until I found something that sort of amazed me. And then I was like, all right, I'm happy now, I can go to sleep. That's kind of when my life changed.
What artist changed you the most as a guitar player when you were starting?
Back in those days, we had 2 television channels, and my father was a minister, and he did not like pop music or rock music playing on the radio in our house or on the record player. So I wasn't exposed to much pop music at all. However, Ed Sullivan's show was okay. That was like, all right, that's cool. It's a family show. The Beatles came on Ed Sullivan, and as you know, the Beatles, when they did a live gig, it sounded like a recording. No matter how bad the mix was, it sounded incredible. And, as a kid that was just learning some chords on the guitar, was like, wow, I didn't know it could sound like that.
So what was the other Beatles and...
Oh, the Stones, hearing Satisfaction, with the fuzz tone, made me try and use a broken cassette or a reel-to-reel tape recorder as a fuzz tone generator. And that's when I started destroying my guitar. Is I took the Stratocaster had a plug that was on a slant, you couldn't plug, and we had this gigantic plug with a preamp on it from an organ. And I said I could use that if I could just change that plate. So the first thing I did was take out that jack. I mean, and as a little kid without the right tools, it was pretty funny.
So how old are you? You go to University of Miami, right?
Yeah.
And they had a great music department.
Yes. In fact, I actually wanted to study classical guitar, but was really a beginner at classical guitar. So they accepted me based on this sort of hybrid piece of music that I sent, which was me playing some nylon string guitar and some electric guitar. And basically we had a jazz department and the classical department, and both were like, it's a little too, the classical guy was like, this guy doesn't sound like, he's got a lot of experience, but he's musical maybe. And the jazz guys were going, this guy's playing electric guitar, but he's more of a rock guy, So neither side wanted me, but they both ended up having to deal.
Who were some of the guys you went to school with that were in the program at that time?
Well, throughout my time at University of Miami, I spent a lot of time playing with Jaco Pastorius, Pat Metheny, and all the guys from his band, of course. And I was able to put together my own ensemble for some of the live performing credit, and that ensemble was called Rock Ensemble No. 2 at the U of M, and that became the Dregs. I think Bruce Hornsby was one of the last year. I remember meeting him, and Patty Scalfa, who's married to Bruce Springsteen. She was in my improv class. Everybody was playing improv over chord changes, and she would do the scat singing over it. She did really good. A lot of interesting people there.
So from the University of Miami, you did the Dregs, and you guys go back to Georgia, right?
Yeah, we moved to to Georgia because for somebody from the South, it was a pretty central location, and it was where I was from. So we knew we had connections.
What part of the Allman organization? At the same time, you guys were kind of the same place, right?
Yeah, in Macon, Georgia, Capricorn Records was becoming really big. You know, they had done a lot of rhythm and blues bands, and including Allman Brothers road manager Twiggs, who became the Dregs road manager.
Did you ever have Dwayne's Les Paul?
That's a funny story, but yes, Dwayne's '59 Sunburst lived with me for a number of years. And it's all based on the fact that Twiggs and I were close. And I was there the day that Twiggs died. We were up in New York. He died skydiving. We found him in the woods, and I learned a lot about a lot of things that day. His family eventually decided they were going to give this guitar back to Dwayne because it had gone through Greg Allman, and Greg Allman traded it to Twiggs for a hot rod. Twiggs all the time knew that he was going to give that guitar to Dwayne's daughter when she was old enough. The plan was to keep the guitar safe until Dwayne's daughter would take possession of it again. And the family said, "Why don't you take it, Steve?" Well, I was scared to death to go on the road with Dwayne's guitar, even though we used to go on the road with Dwayne's guitar, because Twiggs, who worked with us as a tech and road manager, he would get up and play Don't Want You No More with us when we played an Allman Brothers cover. Anyway, so here I've got this guitar. What do? I was building my studio, literally building it, and I put an extra wall in there and hid the guitar in the wall. So when I wanted every album, I would take it out and do like one little part with it, just to say that I did it, and then put it back, put the wall back together. So when I went on the road and did gigs, I wasn't so scared that the guitar was going to get stolen or something.
What'd you do with it?
They eventually said it's time to pass on the guitar, and it went to Dwayne's daughter.
So you did a lot of G3s, right? A few G3 tours?
Yes.
Who'd you play with on G3?
There was 2 tours that I did, one with Joe Satriani and Steve Vai, and the second was, of course, Joe Satriani and John Petrucci. Just no pressure, just be one of the guys playing next to Petrucci and Satriani. No problem. No pressure whatsoever.
But the spirit of those guys.
Exactly. I love to talk about this because that's one of the best parts of my job, is being able to hang around people that are extraordinary in what they do. When you're around people that have done extraordinary things, I think I have found that there are some similarities in their personalities and some things that I love to be reminded of. For instance, John Petrucci, very exacting about everything. It's the details that matter. It's to get somewhere, to build a great building, you got to start at the bottom very carefully, piece by piece by piece, consistently. And John is like a perfect embodiment of that. No one can touch him with what he does. I mean, he's just incredible. Satriani is like super creative. You just jamming with him, bouncing licks off him, he's always going to come back with something musical, and he also has very high standards with everything he does, and I love to be around people like that and observe.
How about Vai?
Vai is just, I think he's the most interesting phrasing guitarist I've ever played with, because he's got this total freedom. He will just step out and go out as far as you want to. Wonderful player. And
I'm going to mention certain name. Albert's here. Albert Lee.
Oh, Albert. Albert is the guy. You don't want to play with Albert if you are thinking that I'll get this right on my 3rd try. Albert gets it right on every try. Sterling and I and Albert played something like 18 or 19 shows in a row. Every solo that Albert did was just perfect and different. And that's what I really, as a sort of a jazz guy, as a sort of a rock, sort of a country guy, sort of a classical mixed up player that I am, I really love seeing somebody that can make fluid musical solos that are improv. It's totally different than reading from a script.
How about, we did a lot of gigs with Luke too.
Oh yeah, yeah. Luke is Mr. Music. He's got the pocket thing. If you just play a beat and give him some changes, and he'll come up with the most perfect part to fit it. He's got this intensity with his soloing that it's amazing. He said something to me that really hit home, is that I've done hundreds of records, and I don't think I ever got a call because of my soloing. It's because of the fact that I could put together a musical part, when it needed it. And that's something guitarists need to know. Guitarists need to remember that. Soloing is great, and it's a lot of fun, and it's a great challenge, but you have to make music with the other people in the band. That's your main job as a guitarist, I think.
The thing that's really impressive is they're not trying to beat the other guy ever. They're trying to support the other guy. And that's the difference between an amateur and a professional. And that's the purity of watching Steve Morse play. I think the other thing that I would talk about in guitar is rhythm guitar. The deeper you get into rhythm guitar, and when you play with somebody, you probably learn more about them from their rhythm guitar than their soiling.
Well, yeah, because that's where you spend most of your time. If you're playing in a band framework, most of the work that you're going to be doing is complementing the music. One of the things that I like to do, one of the things that I'm known for, is letting the other person be heard. A good example is with Deep Purple. When Don Airey takes a solo, I don't exactly turn down, but I try to make room for him. Say if I'm playing power chords up to that point, when he starts playing, I'll switch to a pickup that uses a single coil, and yeah, I'll turn the guitar down some, but I will mute the strings. They won't last as long, and make more holes. Like instead of going da 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 da, maybe da 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 da, something like that, some kind of pattern. If I need to play a power chord, I will hit the chord and immediately roll off the high end from 10 to 0 on with the tone control. And what that does is it takes, the chord is like taking up all kinds of bandwidth and all kinds of frequency. It's like, and big and fat at the bottom. So when you roll off the high end, it goes from, it's there, but you just hear the attack of it, and you roll the high end off, and nobody in the audience knows you're doing it. In fact, I tell the sound man, I said, if there's any reason you have to turn me down, let me know, because I want to fix it. As a guitarist playing through a amp with distortion, you've got a compressed sound. You have a limit to basically the volume. So controlling the high gain and making dynamics with a rhythm playing is huge. I think it's just gigantic, and it's the difference between being in the mix and being part of the music and just being, oh, there's that guy, he's tweedling, let's turn him up. He's done tweedling, let's get rid of him.
I've known you for so long, and you practice more than anybody I ever knew. It was really important. You got a wrist brace on now, a hand brace. And there's a repetitive stress injury, right?
Yeah, it's actually the cartilage on some of the bones is gone. So the bones hit the other bones, and it's very painful, and then makes bone spurs, and it makes you sort of feel like playing is painful. So solution for me right now is to immobilize the wrist. I actually have it looks like a cast that I'm supposed to wear when I play, but I molded it, and I'm going to keep making these different casts so that I'm playing with a more traditional grip like this instead of this 2 fingers and a thumb, which is what I did for 50 years. And I practice multiple hours every day for 50 years. It works out to a lot of hours. If I would have done a more economical motion, I could have gone 100 years, but part of this was what gave me my style and my sound, so I can't complain. But now the challenge is redoing the technique, and so I've been practicing all this year with this technique and also using fingers.
If somebody's feeling something like that, what would you tell them?
Keep your hands warm and literally warm up before you play, stuff like that, and take supplements and take as good a care of your health as you can. I actually broke this wrist playing with my son.
Okay, let me tell you the story. Steve Morse broke his wrist, was still on a tour, broke the cast himself, redesigned another cast, reset it at an angle so he could continue playing.
Oh yeah, then I went out. We did the Purple gig with Montreux Jazz Festival. At least it wasn't recorded. Oh yes, it was. So then the next thing was 2 sets a night with Steve Morse Band and the Dregs tour. And I was sweating so bad, the cast was it was getting horrible. So I drilled 8 holes in it with my drill, put this PVC cap over a hairdryer, threaded 8 hoses into that, and put the 8 hoses into my cast. So I turn on the hairdryer between sets and dry out the cast, and then throw in some talcum powder, blow it out again, and then go back and do the second show.
That's amazing. Guys, I really appreciate you coming today, and I appreciate Steve, and I appreciate our long partnership. Thank you guys for coming to Pursue the Tone.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Music Man.